Hi, Sunshines. I'm Ivy. I've been a producer for 20 years, and music theory is kind of my thing. And I've got JR with me.
Hello, I'm Ignite. I've been producing for about 3 to 4 years now, um, and I know almost nothing about music theory.
Today, we are going to talk about the minor scale, the minor scales, because when we talk about the minor scale, we're talking about the natural minor scale, but there's actually three of them. There's the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, and the melodic minor scale. And it's kind of an interesting adventure as to how they all came about, and knowing how to use them will serve you in your music. So, you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Simple version, 5-second takeaway of the minor scale. A to A, all the white keys. Okay, done. Bye.
Wonderful lesson. I'm so learned.
I'm sure you can use this really well now. But actually, yes, if you're looking for the spacing, like we talked about before, at the end of the day, a scale is the space in between notes. And if you change the space in between notes, then you change the way that the scale sounds and actually the chords that you have accessible to you. So if we go here, this is our spacing for the minor scale. We'll just do one for the moment. And we talked about the major scale last time. Here's our spacing difference. So if we take the major scale and we take the third, the sixth, and the seventh note, and we move them down a half a step, you get your minor scale, your natural minor scale. So there's major. You can hear it. Sounds like what we're used to is major. Move it down, you've got minor. So what are the chords that are attached to that? That's kind of a big deal for harmony. So we go with our play one, skip one route, which we'll get into thirds soon, and I'll talk about like the more technical details of how we're creating these chords rather than just play one, skip one. But for now, that's more or less what we're doing. And finally, our seventh chord. So a quick bit of ear practice here. Minor, major, something else.
Minor?
Yes.
Minor.
Diminished.
So
we've got, yeah, I'll show you the difference in that in a minute.
That sounds a major.
Yep.
I want to say minor?
Yep.
Minor. Major? Major.
Yes. And so your 1, your 4, and your 5 are minor. Your 3, your 6, and your 7 are major, and then your 2 is diminished. So there's a cool little pattern here, because in the major scale, your 1, your 4, and your 5 are major. In the minor scale, your 1, your 4, and your 5 are minor. In the major scale, your 3 and your 6 are minor. In the minor scale, they're major. The big swap is these two.
Okay, I was thinking I remembered the diminished being the last chord or towards the back.
In major, it's the 7th. But why is that happening? Well, if we look and we go 1, if we go just white keys, the major scale starts on C, right? Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's your diminished 7 chord.
Okay.
Where your chords start change because where the notes start change. In this case, we're using what's called a relative scale. And relative scales use all the same notes, but they start at a different starting point. So A minor is relative to C major because they're using the same exact notes, but C major starts on C, A minor starts on A, which means you actually have the same chords, but their position is different. My minor 1 chord is my minor 6 chord in my major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My major 3, that's my major 1 chord in my major scale. That's C, right? 1, 2, 3, compared to just starting at C, 1. There you go. So you can take that information of relatives and use that to your advantage if I'm playing something in C major. I definitely started in C major. And I definitely ended in A minor. And the change doesn't sound that odd. Now there's a little bit of something that I did in there to help it move forward more smoothly. But part of the reason it doesn't sound as odd is because C major and A minor are really close to being the same thing because the same notes, they just have a different starting point. So you kind of have to alter your feeling of home, if you will. But that gets us there. That gets us the idea. That's something that you can use in your writing. That's something that happens an awful lot in songs where you'll have like the verses in the relative minor and then the choruses in the relative major. Sometimes it happens in reverse, but it's more likely to happen that way. But we were talking about there being 3 different minor scales. So the deal with that, let me get this in such a way that I can actually move them.
Oh, is that the guide you were talking about from before?
Yeah.
I see.
So the thing about this is we have great chords and all, but in the major scale we have something special when it comes to our 1 chord and then our 5 chord and then our 1 chord. We have a very strong resolution and we land back at that 1. By wait here, you're just waiting to get back to that 1 and it's really tense. And then we get back and it's like, yay, we're there. But if I do the same thing in the minor, it sounds cool. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I use the minor 5 to the minor 1 all the time, but it does not have the same draw at all. Not even close. Why? If I go major 1, what we want to pay attention to is our first note. And then I go to my major 5. There's only a half step between these, right? That's the key. If I go to my minor 1, there's a whole step. Oops. And so that whole step doesn't have the same draw that the half step does. And so you go way back in the day, this is like half-assed history review on music theory, okay? If you go way back in the day and you get into the minor scale and you're like, oh, okay, this sounds really, really cool, but the music that I'm making requires a very strong resolution. Just kind of the thing at the time. How do you get that? You alter the minor scale for the sake of the harmony. Therefore, you get the harmonic minor scale. That's the first one we'll talk about. You move your 7 up a half a step. And what do you get? You end up with this. We'll do it this way. And you get that half step, and you get that really strong draw back to 1. So you've got the harmonic minor scale. But we have a problem with it. It doesn't fit the tone melodically of the music of the time. It's got a wonderful sound to it, but it does not fit classical Western European music. Like, at all. So what do? When we're going upward, we make sure that we never have more than a full step in between our movements. So we also move the 6 up a half a step. And so we are 2/3 of the way to being back into the major scale when we're moving upwards. If we take this note and we move it right here, we get the major scale. But we still have our minor third. And then going downward, you take these two and you bring them back down. And there you go. There's your melodic minor scale. It's there for the melody. Now that's not how it's used quite as often anymore. Generally, if somebody's going to use the melodic minor scale for their melody, they're just going to use this portion of it. And everything's variable. It's music. At the end of the day, you can do whatever the hell you want to. This tells you why things work, not what you have to do to make them work. But there's our natural minor scale, our harmonic minor scale, and our melodic minor scale right there. So that's why we have 3 of them. And the interesting thing about that, what else changes when we change the spacing in the scale? The chords themselves change, right? So in our natural minor scale, we've got minor 1, diminished 2, major 3, minor 4, minor 5, major 6, major 7, minor 1. What happens when these 2 notes change? Because every note is a part of 3 different triads. Because the triad is a 3-note chord, right? So there's 3 positions it can be in. So we get a lot of note changes. We still have our minor 1, but now we have a minor 2. An augmented 3.
Whoa.
A major 4, a major 5, a diminished 6, a diminished 7, and a minor 1. So our 6 and our 7 go from these interesting major chords to really not usable. Diminished chords are really tricky to use. They're really full of tension, so it's going to be a lot harder to use those to get somewhere else. Are there ways that you can use it? Absolutely. Is it completely unusable? No. Is it harder to use? Yes. But you can use that to your advantage. And I just seamlessly go back into my natural minor scale. I use this F sharp to my advantage to create a major 4. So when you know these things, you can mix and match them if you want to. And a really great example of that is what's called the Mario cadence. So if we take the knowledge of the minor scale and the knowledge of the major scale, and we take our minor flat 6, because what did we do to make the minor scale? We flatten the 6 and the 7 and the 3, right? So we have, a major flat 6, major flat 7, but then we go to our major scale and we get our major 1. And you get the Mario cadence. So the information from the major scale that we talked about can be used to combine with the information of the minor scale at any time. Because if you're looking at the harmonic minor scale, what are you doing when you go dun, dun, dun? You're taking the 5th from the major scale. You create a new minor scale, sure, but more importantly, you're drawing from another scale or mode of the key that you're playing in. I'm drawing the 5 from A major. You can do that with any chord at all. Really doesn't matter. That's where you get this whole thing. Minor 4. We're in C minor at the moment, but minor 4. Does that sound familiar? What's our 4th chord in minor? It's minor. So we get C major, which is natural to the major scale. F major, that's your major 4, it's natural to the major scale. F minor, it's your minor 4, it's natural to the C minor scale. Back down to C major. That's all you're doing right there.
Dang.
And this information you can take as far as you want. So we can have kind of a secondary 5th. The 5th is called the dominant chord. It's a secondary dominant to help us get elsewhere. And this is where this gets really crazy. Not even really crazy, kind of sort of crazy. It can get really crazy. But if we go here, C major, I want to go to my 6. My 6 is minor. It's a good move. Sounds all right. You don't sound like you're moving a lot. There's a whole like reasoning behind that with your 1 and your 3 and your 6 and the way chords are labeled and the way they feel like they move because of the notes that we're using. But for now, what can I do to make this movement more interesting? Well, I'm moving to A. If I know my A scale, I know that E is the 5th note, so I get to my 5th chord. That's the important chord, right? So what if I just build E major? I mean, I know that G sharp is not a part of C in any way, shape, or form. C minor has A flat, and so it's they sound the same. A flat, G sharp, same note. It has a different use. There is no G sharp in C major. That doesn't matter though, because what I'm worried about is how I get to this note. And remember that whole thing? 5 to 1. Strong resolution, right? Let's just whip out an E major from the C major chord. For a second, it sounds out of place. It's definitely not part of C major, and we can hear that really strongly. But as soon as I go here, it's reasonable. It makes complete sense. It's just a little bit of tension. To get to where I wanted to go. You can do that with just about any chord that you want to. Like, okay, A minor. My 1 and my 7. Okay, I like that. But let's add a secondary dominant because why not? You can do anything you want to, right?
Yeah.
G. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll build a major chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. There we go. D major. So A minor. And then go to F and kind of whatever you want to do. You do it that same way every single time. Some of them aren't going to work as well. That works, but it's not as striking because C major is already in the A minor scale. Some of them are going to be more striking. Like if I want to do a 5-to-1 motion, if I want to do that secondary dominant to get to E, my 5 is B. I have to alter 2 notes to get my B major. And so that is going to be a much more interesting sound. It's going to be a much more striking sound. Not necessarily bad, just more noticeable, more striking. It's going to bring more attention because you're taking 2 notes out of the scale instead of just the 1. It still sounds super cool though. And certain things like that you want to keep in mind, like where does home feel like? When I play that out of context, it sounds more like I'm moving to E minor. Than I am in the key of A. So that may not be something that you want to do immediately because you're going to change the sound of home. Of course, you can use that to your advantage to sound rather ambiguous, and you're not quite sure. Are we in A minor? Are we in E minor? Who knows? Doesn't matter. So you can take any of those ideas, any of those scales, you can kind of swap places as you please. Some of them are going to sound better than others. Some of them you're going to have to find like kind of ways to get to the point that you want to get to, but you can take that information and just kind of run with it wherever you want to. And so that is minor scale, harmonic minor, natural minor. You can do a whole lot with that. Everything makes sense. Any questions?
How do you kind of get to understand the relationships between different keys and different I don't remember what they're called. Different like
Scales, chord progressions.
Different scales. Like you said, you can switch from C major to A minor pretty seamlessly for the most part. But how do you like realize that? Is it just memorization? Is that something you can kind of know intuitively?
That's a good question. There's 2 major relationships between scales in general, but we'll stick with major and minor. There's relative and parallel. So relative scales have all the same notes, but different starting points. So C major, C to E, F, G, A, B, C. No black keys. A minor, A, B, C to E, F, G, A. No black keys. C minor, C, D, E, flat, F, G, A, flat, B, flat, C. If I put my fingers for this, there we go. E flat major, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. Same notes, different starting point. Parallel keys have the same starting point with different notes. C major, C minor, A minor, A major.
Okay.
So you have your relative and your parallel. And you can switch between either. If I take a chord progression like my major 1 from my major scale and my minor 4 from my minor scale, while I'm playing major 1, I can play a major. When I play my minor 4, that's from my minor scale, right? So why not just turn my melody minor? And so I'm actually switching seamlessly now between parallel scales. Part of it is memorization. You have to know what the notes are in the first place. If you're like, oh, I want to play F sharp major and then I want to play its parallel minor, what are the notes of F sharp major in the first place? So knowing that information is really helpful to kind of all of this and just being able to go, oh, we're doing this thing. Some of it is just knowing chordal relationships, like the whole 5 to 1 thing. 5 is your dominant chord, to 1 is your root note. As long as you know that information, then you can do the secondary dominant deal where you're going, what chord am I going to? What is the 5th of that chord? How do I build a major triad or 7th or whatever? How do I build a major chord on that 5th? So C to A, I'm going to A. A, B, C, D, E. I know E is my 5th. Major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps, 1, 2, 3 half steps. So I can go to A. So now I can do this thing. Because I'm combining those pieces of information. How to build a chord, what the 5th does, the fact that the 5th goes to the 1 really, really well. As long as it's major, it will have a stronger pull like that. And then what chord I'm going to, which is generally, but not entirely, going to be based on what scale I'm in. Because, of course, you can go out of the scale as much as you want to. Does that clear that up a little bit?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, there's a lot of information there. We have our natural minor scale, our harmonic minor scale, our melodic minor scale. We talked about dominant chords, that 5 to 1 motion being really strong because of that half step from the note just below the root note to the root note of the scale itself. Taking that information and being able to use that to get to another chord in an interesting way, finding the 5 of the chord you're going to, creating a major scale off of that 5th note. So I'm playing this, I'm going to this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And using that to spice up your chord progressions. We also talked about relative scales, where we're using all of the same notes but with a different starting point, and parallel scales, where we're using the same starting point but we end up with different notes, and the ability to move in between those if you want to. That is a lot of information to work with. Pick one, pick all of it, do something, the same thing as usual, make something out of it, put it in the comments. I want to hear it. I want to know what you're doing with it. I want to know what questions you have. And we'll get into how to build chords and what is your root, what is your second, what is your third, what is your fourth, all the way up to the octave. Maybe we'll even talk about extensions next week. We'll see. But for now, y'all have a beautiful day.